I am Samantha Wilson, 32, celebrating 10 years of marriage at La Maison, our favorite restaurant. When Eric excused himself to take a call, I sipped my wine, admiring the anniversary bracelet he had just given me. Then she appeared, her baby bump visible beneath her red dress. My husband froze mid-stride. "Surprise, honey," she called out. Neither of them saw my slight smile. The waiter approached with our dessert, exactly as I had arranged it. My revenge would be sweeter than the chocolate soufflé. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever turned betrayal into triumph. Trust me, you will want to see how this ends. Eric and I met during our senior year at Northwestern University. I was pursuing my degree in marketing while he studied finance. We literally bumped into each other at the campus coffee shop, sending my marketing textbooks flying across the floor. As he helped gather my scattered papers, our hands touched, and that electric feeling people talk about? It was real. His blue eyes caught mine, and I was instantly drawn to his charming smile and confident demeanor. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant just off campus. He was attentive, asking thoughtful questions about my dreams and ambitions. I told him about wanting to work for a major advertising firm, and he seemed genuinely interested, not competitive or dismissive like other guys I had dated. He shared his plans to enter investment banking, his eyes lighting up when talking about his future. We connected over our shared drive and ambition. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. The proposal was everything a girl could dream of. He took me back to that same Italian restaurant where we had our first date, got down on one knee, and presented a beautiful diamond ring. "Samantha, you make me want to be a better man. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down my face as I said yes. The other diners applauded, and I felt like the luckiest woman alive. Our wedding was a lavish affair at the Burnham Hotel in Chicago. My father spared no expense, proud to give his only daughter the wedding of her dreams. I wore a custom Vera Wang gown, and Eric looked handsome in his tailored tuxedo. We exchanged vows overlooking Lake Michigan, promising to love and cherish each other forever. If only I had known how empty those words would become. The early years of our marriage were blissful. We both landed our dream jobs, me at Leo Burnett Advertising Agency and Eric at Goldman Sachs. We purchased a beautiful brownstone in Lincoln Park and decorated it together, arguing playfully over furniture choices and paint colors. We traveled extensively, collecting memories in Paris, Tokyo, and Barcelona. Each adventure strengthened our bond, or so I thought. Our tradition of celebrating our anniversary at La Maison began on our first year. The French restaurant was exclusive and intimate, with soft lighting and impeccable service. The chef always prepared something special for us, knowing we were celebrating another year of marriage. We would dress up, exchange meaningful gifts, and reminisce about our journey together. The first signs of trouble appeared in our 8th year of marriage. Eric began working later hours, claiming big projects and important clients needed his attention. His phone became a fortress of privacy, always face down or locked with a new password. When I asked about these changes, he dismissed my concerns, calling me paranoid and insecure. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. Then came the subtle changes in our intimate life. He was either too tired or seemed to be going through the motions, his mind clearly elsewhere. Our conversations became superficial, focused on schedules and household matters rather than dreams and feelings. The emotional connection that had once been our foundation began to crumble. I first suspected the affair when I noticed a charge for jewelry on our credit card statement, dated 3 days before Valentine's Day. The problem? I never received any jewelry for Valentine's Day that year. He claimed it was a surprise for my upcoming birthday, but my birthday passed without any jewelry appearing. My suspicions grew when I found a long blonde hair on his suit jacket. "My hair is auburn." When confronted, he laughed it off, suggesting it must have come from his female colleague during a business meeting. The explanation seemed plausible, but something in his eyes told a different story. The definitive proof came when I checked our phone bill. Numerous calls and texts to the same number, often late at night or during his supposed business trips. I did not confront him immediately. Instead, I became a detective in my own marriage, gathering evidence methodically. I installed a tracking app on his phone during one of his showers. I noted his schedules and cross-checked them with his actual whereabouts. The woman's name was Amanda Peters, a new client relations manager at his firm. 30 years old, unmarried, ambitious. I found her LinkedIn profile and then her Instagram. Seeing her perfect blonde hair and flawless figure sent knives through my heart. In one photo, she stood outside La Maison, our special place, with the caption, "Amazing dinner with an amazing man." The date coincided with Eric's late work night. I had two choices: confront him immediately or strategize. I chose the latter. Our 10th anniversary was approaching, and an idea formed in my mind. A public confrontation would force Eric to face his betrayal without the ability to gaslight or manipulate me in private. But I needed more than just evidence of the affair. I needed to understand its extent. I hired a private investigator, Thomas, who documented their meetings, dinners, and weekend getaways. The photos he provided showed them holding hands, kissing in public, entering her apartment building together. Each image shattered another piece of my heart, but also strengthened my resolve. The final blow came when Thomas called me to a coffee shop near Amanda's apartment. "There's something you need to see in person," he said gravely. I watched from the car as Amanda emerged from the building, her hand resting protectively on a visible baby bump. Thomas confirmed she was approximately 5 months pregnant, based on his observations and some clever social engineering with her doctor's office. My husband was having a baby with another woman. 10 years of marriage, and this was where we had ended up. I sat in my car for hours, alternating between sobbing and eerily calm planning. By the time I drove home, I had dried my tears and solidified my plan. Our anniversary dinner at La Maison would proceed as planned, but with modifications that neither Eric nor Amanda would anticipate. I called La Maison and spoke with the manager, Philippe, whom we had come to know well over the years. I explained a modified version of the situation, saying I wanted to surprise my husband with a special dessert presentation for our milestone anniversary. Philippe, ever the romantic, was delighted to assist. I also requested a specific table, one centrally located in the restaurant, visible to all other diners. The week before our anniversary, I met with our lawyer under the pretense of updating our wills. Instead, I discussed divorce proceedings, property divisions, and gathered information about my rights given the infidelity. I transferred half of our joint savings to my personal account, an amount I was legally entitled to. I also collected all our important documents and secured them in a safe deposit box. I purchased a new dress for the occasion, a sophisticated black number that highlighted my best features. I scheduled a full spa day, getting my hair, nails, and makeup done. If this was to be the final performance of our marriage, I would look my absolute best. The night before our anniversary, Eric called to confirm he would pick me up at 7. He sounded distracted but attempted enthusiasm. 10 years, baby. Can you believe it? He said. I responded with equal fake cheer. It feels like just yesterday. I cannot wait to celebrate with you. The lies flowed easily from both of us. As I laid out my outfit and jewelry for the following evening, I added one final touch, a small USB drive containing all the evidence of his affair, including photos of pregnant Amanda. This would be my anniversary gift to him, along with divorce papers tucked neatly into an anniversary card. Everything was ready. I went to bed with a strange sense of calm, knowing that tomorrow would end one chapter of my life, but begin another. The morning of our anniversary, I woke before Eric. I watched him sleep, studying the face I had loved for a decade. How could someone so familiar now seem like a stranger? I thought back to all the signs I had missed or dismissed over the past year. There was the sudden interest in his appearance. New expensive colognes replaced his usual scent. Designer clothes filled his closet. He joined a high-end gym and became obsessive about his workout routine. At the time, I had been pleased, even flattered, thinking he wanted to look good for me. Then came the emotional distance. Conversations became transactional rather than connective. Can you pick up my dry cleaning? Replaced, how was your day? He stopped asking about my work challenges or celebrating my achievements. When I received a major promotion 6 months ago, his congratulations felt hollow, his attention quickly shifting to his phone. The business trips increased in frequency. Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, all places where his firm had offices, making the trips seem legitimate. But the patterns became suspicious. He always left on Thursdays and returned on Mondays, maximizing weekend time away. He stopped bringing me small gifts from these trips, a tradition he had maintained for years. My friend Catherine was the first to voice concerns. We met for lunch 3 months ago, and she hesitantly mentioned seeing Eric at a restaurant in the Gold Coast neighborhood. He was with a blonde woman, and they seemed very comfortable with each other, she said carefully. When I asked if it could have been a client meeting, she shook her head. They were holding hands across the table, Samantha. I'm so sorry. I dismissed her concerns initially, defending Eric and suggesting she must have seen someone who looked like him. But her words planted a seed of doubt that grew with each passing day. I began checking his shirts for lipstick stains, sniffing his clothes for unfamiliar perfume, and monitoring our credit card statements more closely. 2 months ago, I discovered a hotel charge in the city, just 15 minutes from our home. Why would he need a hotel room so close to our house? When questioned, he claimed it was for a client who had too much to drink, and he covered the room as a professional courtesy. The explanation was plausible but felt rehearsed. The pregnancy revelation changed everything. According to my calculations based on her visible bump, Amanda must have conceived around the time of our 9th anniversary. The symmetry was both ironic and painful. While we celebrated 9 years of marriage, he was creating new life with another woman. I confided in my sister Rachel, the only person who knew my complete plan for the anniversary dinner. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? She asked, concerned. Why not confront him privately first? Because he will lie. I explained. He will manipulate the situation, make me doubt myself, and possibly warn Amanda to stay away. No, this needs to happen exactly as I've planned it. Rachel helped me refine the details, suggesting I record everything on my phone as potential leverage in divorce proceedings. She also insisted I book a hotel room for myself for after the confrontation, anticipating I would not want to return to our home that night. The emotional toll of maintaining my facade was immense. I cried in the shower where Eric couldn't hear me. I took long drives alone to scream and release my anger. I channeled my pain into meticulous planning, finding purpose in preparing the perfect ending to our imperfect marriage. A week before our anniversary, I tested my theory about Amanda's knowledge of our special date. I deliberately left our anniversary dinner reservation confirmation on the kitchen counter. Eric quickly tucked it into his pocket, presumably to warn Amanda not to contact him that evening. But I had modified the reservation, changing it from 7 to 8, ensuring she would arrive while we were still there if she chose to make a surprise appearance. I suspected she would. From my investigation, I learned Amanda had grown increasingly frustrated with being the secret woman. Her pregnancy had escalated her demands for Eric to leave me. Social media posts hinted at her impatience, tired of waiting for promises to be kept, and some men need to make hard choices appeared on her Instagram in recent weeks. 3 days before our anniversary, the final piece fell into place. I followed Eric to a jewelry store where he purchased an expensive necklace. The receipt he carelessly left in his jacket pocket confirmed it was not for me. The gift description included to A, all my love, E engraved on a heart-shaped pendant. That night, I made a crucial decision. Initial plans for public humiliation evolved into something more dignified, but equally devastating. Rather than creating a scene that would satisfy momentary vengeance, I designed a confrontation that would force both Eric and Amanda to face the full reality of their choices while allowing me to maintain my dignity. I met with Philippe at La Maison again, revising the dessert surprise. Instead of a public announcement of the affair, the special dessert would simply be the delivery method for the evidence USB and divorce papers. The real confrontation would come from Amanda's unexpected arrival and my calm, prepared response. The day before our anniversary, I received a text from the private investigator. Subject A purchased new dress and made hair appointment for tomorrow evening. This confirmed my suspicion that Amanda planned to make an appearance. Either she would confront us together, or she believed Eric would be ending our marriage that night and wanted to celebrate with him afterward. I spent that final evening before our anniversary preparing emotionally. I wrote in my journal, expressing all the hurt, anger, and eventual hope for healing. I looked through our wedding album one last time, allowing myself to mourn the death of what I had believed was a loving marriage. Then I carefully packed a small overnight bag to take to my hotel. The morning of our anniversary arrived. Eric presented me with flowers and a small wrapped box containing an expensive bracelet. "Happy anniversary, babe," he said, kissing my cheek. I thanked him sincerely, recognizing this might be the last gift I would ever receive from him. The bracelet was beautiful but impersonal, likely purchased by his assistant rather than selected with care. Throughout the day, my phone buzzed with anniversary wishes from friends and family, most unaware of the evening I had planned. Eric left for work, promising to be home early to get ready for our special dinner. I spent the day at the spa, a gift to myself before the storm. As the esthetician applied my facial mask, I closed my eyes and rehearsed what I would say when the moment arrived. By late afternoon, a strange calm settled over me. The weeks of anguish had crystallized into clear purpose. Tonight would not be about winning or losing, but about reclaiming my dignity and setting myself free from betrayal. As I slipped into my black dress and fastened the new bracelet around my wrist, I was ready for the final act of my marriage to begin. At 6:30, I heard Eric's key in the door. He called out a greeting and headed upstairs to shower and change. I noticed he had brought home another bouquet, larger and more expensive than the morning's flowers. Overcompensation had become his specialty. While he got ready, I checked my overnight bag one last time. Toiletries, change of clothes, important documents, and my laptop were all packed. I had already moved the bag to my car during the afternoon, along with several personal items I couldn't bear to leave behind. The USB drive and divorce papers were securely in my clutch. Eric emerged looking handsome in his charcoal gray suit, the one I had helped him select last Christmas. He had trimmed his beard and applied the cologne I once loved, but now associated with his deception. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes briefly appreciative before darting to check his watch. "Thank you," I replied, forcing warmth into my voice. "Ready for our special night?" He nodded, helping me with my coat. His hands lingered on my shoulders, a gesture that once would have comforted me but now felt hollow. The drive to La Maison was filled with superficial conversation. Eric talked about a new potential client, the weather, and upcoming elections. Nothing personal, nothing about us or our decade together. I asked about his day, knowing he had taken the afternoon off but claimed to be working. "Busy," he said vaguely. "End of quarter is always hectic." Another lie to add to the collection. According to the private investigator, he had spent 3 hours at Amanda's apartment before buying the second bouquet on his way home. La Maison welcomed us with warm lighting and the delicious aroma of French cuisine. Philippe greeted us personally, his knowing glance at me almost imperceptible. "Ah, the Wilsons. 10 years. A beautiful milestone. We have your special table ready." Our table was perfectly positioned in the center of the main dining room, visible from both the entrance and most other tables. Eric seemed slightly uncomfortable with the prominent location, but didn't object. A bottle of champagne awaited us, compliments of the house. As we settled in, I took a moment to observe the other diners. Couples engaged in intimate conversation, friends celebrating special occasions, all unaware they would soon become audience to the unraveling of a marriage. I felt a momentary pang of guilt for what would unfold in this elegant space, but quickly reminded myself I wasn't the one who had turned our relationship into a lie. Eric ordered appetizers for us to share, his selections thoughtful and reminiscent of meals we had enjoyed in happier times. As we sampled the delicate flavors, he attempted anniversary conversation. 10 years ago today. "You made me the happiest man alive," he said, raising his champagne flute. I clinked my glass against his, smiling. It's been quite a journey, I replied truthfully. Here's to 10 more. He continued, his eyes not quite meeting mine. I nodded, wondering if he actually believed we had a future or if this was just another performance in his ongoing deception. Perhaps he planned to end things soon but wanted to get through this anniversary first, keeping up appearances for just a little longer. Between courses, Eric checked his phone repeatedly, each time becoming slightly more agitated. I suspected Amanda was messaging him, perhaps informing him of her imminent arrival. His distraction became more pronounced as our main courses arrived, his attention clearly elsewhere despite his attempts to engage in conversation. Is everything all right? I asked innocently. You seem preoccupied. Just a work thing, he replied quickly. Nothing important. On our anniversary? Surely Goldman Sachs can survive one evening without you, I said lightly, but with an edge he didn't catch. He smiled apologetically and put his phone away. You're right. Tonight is about us. As we ate our entrees, I steered the conversation toward memories of our relationship. Do you remember our honeymoon in Bali? I asked. That sunset on the beach where we promised to always be honest with each other? A flicker of discomfort crossed his face. Of course. Beautiful time. His response was clipped, unwilling to dwell on promises he had broken. And what about last year's anniversary? We were right at this same table, I continued, watching him carefully. He shifted in his seat. Was it this table? I don't recall exactly. It was, I confirmed. You had the duck and I had the sea base. You were on your phone that night too, come to think of it. His expression tightened slightly. Samantha, are you upset about something? Before I could respond, his phone buzzed again. This time, I saw Amanda's name flash on the screen. Eric quickly turned the phone over, but it was too late. Our eyes met, and for a moment, I thought he might confess everything. Instead, he excused himself. I need to use the restroom. Be right back. As he walked away, I saw him answer the call, speaking in hushed tones. From my vantage point, I could see him gesturing emphatically, clearly trying to prevent whatever Amanda was planning. But it was too late. The wheels were already in motion. I took a deep breath and prepared myself. The confrontation was imminent. Philippe caught my eye from across the room and gave a subtle nod. The dessert with my special additions was ready to be served at my signal. I touched the USB drive in my clutch, confirming it was still there. Eric returned looking flustered. Sorry about that, he muttered, taking a large sip of wine. Where were we? You were about to tell me who Amanda is, I said calmly. His face drained of color. What? Amanda, I repeated. The woman who keeps texting you. The woman whose name just appeared on your phone. Eric's expression cycled through shock, fear, and then settled on indignation. She's a client, Samantha. I've mentioned her before. Have you? I don't recall you mentioning sleeping with her, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. His eyes widened. What are you talking about? That's ridiculous. I was about to respond when I saw her enter the restaurant. Amanda's blonde hair was perfectly styled, her red dress hugging her curves and accentuating her pregnant belly. She scanned the dining room, her eyes landing on our table. The moment of truth had arrived. Amanda's confident stride faltered slightly when she saw me sitting across from Eric, but she quickly recovered and continued toward our table. Eric's back was to the entrance, so he remained unaware of her approach until I said, I believe your client has arrived, Eric. He turned, his face contorting in horror as Amanda reached our table. Surprise, honey, she exclaimed, loud enough for nearby diners to hear. I thought I'd join you for your work dinner. Her emphasis on work dinner made it clear she had been fed a different story about tonight. Eric stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his wine glass. Amanda, what are you doing here? His voice was a harsh whisper, eyes darting between her, me, and the now attentive neighboring tables. Amanda's smile faltered as she registered his panic rather than pleasure at her arrival. You said you had a business dinner that would end early. I thought I'd surprise you so we could celebrate afterward. Her hand moved protectively to her baby bump. Celebrate what exactly? I asked pleasantly, remaining seated. Our 10th wedding anniversary or your pregnancy? The color drained from Amanda's face as she finally understood the situation. Wedding anniversary? But Eric said. She trailed off, looking at him with dawning comprehension. Please sit down, Amanda, I said, gesturing to the empty chair at our table for four. Since you're carrying my husband's child, you might as well join our celebration. Eric looked like he might be sick. Samantha, this isn't what it looks like, he began, the cliché falling flat even to his own ears. Actually, it's exactly what it looks like, I corrected him. You've been having an affair with Amanda for at least a year, and now she's pregnant with your child. Did I miss anything important? Amanda slowly lowered herself into the offered chair, her confident demeanor crumbling. He told me you two were separated, she said quietly. That you were only staying together on paper until some investment deal closed next month. I laughed softly, without humor. Is that what he told you? How convenient. And the baby? When did that happy accident occur? Eric finally found his voice. We should discuss this privately. Not here, not now. Why not here and now, Eric? 10 years of marriage deserves a proper send-off. Don't you think? I turned to Amanda. Did you know we were high school sweethearts? That we got married right after college? That we've been coming to this restaurant every anniversary for the past decade. Amanda shook her head, tears forming in her eyes. He said your marriage had been over for years. That you stayed together for appearances. By now, the tables around us had gone quiet, diners trying to appear uninterested while clearly hanging on every word of our unfolding drama. A waiter approached cautiously but retreated at Philippe's subtle signal from across the room. Eric, I continued calmly. Were you planning to tell me about the baby before or after our anniversary dinner? He ran his hands through his hair, desperation evident in every movement. I was going to tell you everything tomorrow. I swear. Tonight was supposed to be a good memory for us to end on. How thoughtful, I remarked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. One last hurrah before discarding your wife of 10 years. Amanda shifted uncomfortably. I should go. This was clearly a mistake. No, please stay, I insisted. In fact, I think it's time for dessert, don't you? I caught Philippe's eye and nodded slightly. He disappeared into the kitchen. Eric looked relieved at the apparent change of subject. Samantha, please. Let's just pay the bill and discuss this at home. But we haven't had our anniversary dessert yet, I said. It's tradition, Eric. You wouldn't want to break tradition on our last anniversary, would you? Amanda wiped away a tear. I had no idea, Eric. You told me she knew about us, that she was seeing someone else too. I raised an eyebrow. Another lie to add to the collection. Tell me. Amanda, when did you two meet? Was it at the company holiday party last year? The one I couldn't attend because I had the flu. She nodded, looking miserable. He said you two had an arrangement. The only arrangement we had was marriage, I replied. Complete with vows neither of us was supposed to break. Eric's phone buzzed again. He ignored it this time, his attention divided between damage control and watching for the approaching dessert. Samantha, I know I've hurt you, and I'm sorry. I truly am. But can we please continue this conversation somewhere private? Why? Are you worried what all these people will think of you? The successful investment banker who couldn't keep it in his pants? The man who got his mistress pregnant while celebrating his 9th wedding anniversary? My voice remained steady, my exterior calm despite the storm raging within. Philippe approached with a covered silver dessert dome, placing it ceremoniously in the center of our table. Your special anniversary dessert, as requested, madam, he announced with a formal bow. Eric looked at the dome with trepidation, clearly wondering what I had planned. Amanda seemed confused, her gaze shifting between the dessert and the exit, as if calculating whether she could make a dignified escape. Thank you, Philippe, I said warmly. Would you do the honors? With a flourish, Philippe lifted the dome, revealing not the expected chocolate souffle, but an elegant arrangement of documents and a USB drive, along with 3 small plates of chocolate-covered strawberries. What is this? Eric asked, staring at the unusual dessert presentation. I reached for the papers, handing half to Eric and half to Amanda. Divorce papers for you, Eric. And for you, Amanda. Printouts of all the other women he's been seeing concurrent with your relationship. Amanda's hands trembled as she took the papers. What do you mean, other women? You didn't think you were special, did you? That you were the only one? I asked gently, almost sympathetically. Eric has quite the busy schedule. Tuesdays and Thursdays with you. Wednesdays with Brenda from accounting, and occasional weekends with Stephanie when he's supposedly on business trips. Eric's face contorted with rage and panic. That's not true. Amanda. She's lying. There's only you, I swear. I picked up the USB drive. Everything's here. Photos, hotel receipts, text message transcripts. The private investigator was quite thorough. Amanda's tears flowed freely now. You've been sleeping with other women while I'm carrying your child. Her voice rose, attracting even more attention from surrounding tables. Keep your voice down, Eric hissed. This is all a misunderstanding. I sampled one of the chocolate strawberries. Delicious. You should try one before you go. Eric pushed the divorce papers away. I'm not signing these here. That's fine, I replied. My lawyer will be in touch tomorrow. I've already moved half our assets to my personal account, which I'm legally entitled to do. I've also documented your infidelity thoroughly, which will be relevant in the divorce proceedings. Amanda stood abruptly. I can't believe I fell for your lies, Eric. How could you do this to me? To your own child. Eric reached for her hand. Amanda, please. Let me explain. She pulled away. Explain what? That you're still married? That there are other women? That our entire relationship is built on lies. She turned to me. I truly didn't know about your anniversary. I'm so sorry. I nodded, acknowledging her apology. I believe you. He's manipulated both of us. Amanda gathered her purse, dignity somewhat restored. I'll be contacting you about child support, Eric. My lawyer will be in touch. With that parting shot. She walked out of the restaurant, head held high despite the curious stares following her exit. Eric slumped in his chair, the full weight of his exposed deception crushing him. You didn't have to do it like this, he said quietly. You didn't have to humiliate me. Didn't I? I asked, finishing my strawberry. Wasn't I entitled to at least this small measure of justice after a decade of loyalty rewarded with betrayal? Besides, I've been very restrained. I could have made a scene, but instead, I simply allowed the truth to speak for itself. The truth that had finally, devastatingly, been spoken aloud. The restaurant had fallen into an uncomfortable hush. The nearby diners pretending not to stare while clearly fascinated by our unfolding drama. Philippe approached with concern. Is everything all right, madam? Monsieur? Everything is fine, Philippe. I assured him. Just a small marital disagreement. Could we have the check, please? Eric sat frozen, staring at the divorce papers. When Philippe retreated, he finally spoke. His voice low and dangerous. You planned this entire thing. You knew Amanda would come. I suspected she might, I admitted. She's been getting impatient with being your secret, hasn't she? Especially now with the baby coming. How long have you known, he asked, a muscle twitching in his jaw. About the affair? Months. About the pregnancy? A few weeks. I took a sip of water. My champagne long forgotten. You weren't exactly subtle, Eric. The late nights, the secret phone calls, the unexplained charges on our credit cards. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. So instead of confronting me privately like a normal person, you orchestrated this public spectacle? Do you have any idea what this could do to my reputation? My career? Should I have been more concerned about your reputation than you were when sleeping with multiple women? I asked calmly. Besides, I gave you countless opportunities to come clean. Remember when I asked about the hotel charge downtown? Or the jewelry purchase that never made it to my jewelry box? You lied every single time, Eric. His expression shifted from anger to calculation. Samantha, we can work through this. 10 years of marriage isn't something to throw away over one mistake. One mistake. I echoed incredulously. You've been having affairs for at least a year, possibly longer. You got another woman pregnant. These aren't mistakes, Eric. They're choices. Deliberate, repeated choices to betray our marriage. He reached for my hand across the table. I pulled away. I still love you, he insisted. We can go to counseling, start fresh. I'll end things with Amanda. And the baby? I asked. Will you end things with your child too? He faltered. I'll support the baby financially, of course. But my priority is saving our marriage. I laughed softly. There's nothing to save, Eric. You destroyed it the moment you decided other women were more important than your vows. Philippe returned with the check. Eric reached for it automatically, then hesitated. You said you moved half our assets? Yes, I confirmed. Don't worry, I left you plenty to support Amanda and your child. I'm not vindictive, just practical. He signed the check with a shaking hand. Where will you go tonight? I've booked a hotel, I replied. I'll come by tomorrow to collect some things while you're at work. My lawyer will handle the rest. Eric's face hardened. You won't get everything you're asking for in these papers. I'll fight this. You're welcome to try, I said evenly. But considering the evidence I have of your multiple affairs, plus the fact that you fathered a child with another woman, I doubt any judge will be particularly sympathetic to your case. As we prepared to leave, Eric made one last desperate attempt. What about the house? Our trips? The future we planned? What future, Eric? The one where you secretly maintain a harem of women while I remain oblivious? Or the one where you leave me for Amanda and your new baby? I stood, gathering my clutch. Either way. That future died the moment you betrayed me. We walked out of La Maison in silence, the eyes of the other diners following our exit. Outside. The cool evening air provided temporary relief from the tension. Eric moved toward our car, but I shook my head. I'll take a cab to my hotel, I informed him. You can have the car tonight. This isn't over, Samantha, he warned, his tone somewhere between threatening and pleading. It's been over for a long time, I replied. We just finally acknowledged it tonight. As Eric drove away, I felt a curious lightness despite the evening's emotional intensity. Philippe appeared at my side, concern evident in his kind eyes. Are you all right, madam? Shall I call you a taxi? I'm better than I've been in months, I assured him. And yes, a taxi would be wonderful. While waiting for the cab, I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my sister Rachel. I texted her quickly, it's done. I'm okay. Call you tomorrow. The taxi arrived promptly. As I settled into the back seat and gave the driver my hotel address, I glanced back at La Maison one last time. 10 anniversaries celebrated within those walls, and now a final. Unexpected commemoration, the end of a marriage built on lies. At the hotel, the reality of my situation finally hit me. I sat on the edge of the bed, marriage bracelet still on my wrist, and allowed myself to cry. Not for the man who had betrayed me, but for the decade of my life invested in someone who hadn't valued our vows. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I'm truly sorry. I never would have gotten involved if I'd known the truth. Amanda. I didn't respond, unsure what comfort could possibly exist between a wife and her husband's pregnant mistress. Minutes later, Eric called. I let it go to voicemail. His message was a mixture of anger and bargaining. This public humiliation was completely unnecessary. Call me when you're ready to discuss this like adults. We can still fix this, Samantha. I deleted the message without responding. There was nothing left to say that hadn't been said across that restaurant table, nothing left to salvage from the wreckage of our marriage. My sister called again, and this time I answered. Are you okay? She asked immediately. I will be, I assured her. It went exactly as planned. Maybe too perfectly. What happened with Amanda? Did she really show up? Right on cue, I confirmed. Pregnant and completely unaware it was our anniversary. Eric had told her we were separated, that I knew about their relationship. Rachel sighed heavily. What a bastard. And how did she take the news about the other women? About as well as expected. She stormed out, promising to contact her lawyer about child support. Good for her, Rachel said firmly. And you? How are you really feeling? I considered the question carefully. Relieved mostly. Like I've set down a heavy burden I didn't realize I was carrying. Sad too, of course. 10 years is a long time. It is, she agreed. But better to start fresh now than waste another 10 years with someone who doesn't deserve you. After hanging up, I ordered room service and took a long, hot shower. As the water cascaded over me, I imagined it washing away the last decade, preparing me for whatever came next. I removed Eric's anniversary bracelet and placed it in my toiletry bag. I would return it to him along with his other gifts over the years. Late that night, Eric texted again. Amanda won't answer my calls. Neither will Brenda or Stephanie. What did you tell them? I smiled despite myself. The truth, I replied simply. No further messages came from Eric that night. I fell asleep thinking not of the marriage I had lost, but of the freedom I had reclaimed. The morning after our disastrous anniversary dinner, I woke in my hotel room with a strange sense of peace. For months, I had been living in emotional limbo, suspecting the worst while clinging to increasingly implausible explanations for Eric's behavior. Now, at least, the truth was out in the open. I ordered breakfast from room service and made 2 important calls. First to my office, informing them I would be taking a few personal days. Then to my lawyer, confirming that Eric had received the divorce papers and discussing next steps. He's already called me, Sandra, my attorney, informed me. He's claiming emotional distress and demanding some of the papers be rewritten. On what grounds? I asked, spreading jam on my toast. He says you ambushed him publicly and caused damage to his professional reputation. It's nonsense, of course. The law doesn't protect adulterers from the consequences of their actions being revealed. I smiled grimly. So what happens now? Now we proceed as planned. The papers have been filed. He has 30 days to respond officially. In the meantime, I suggest you secure all important personal items from your home and establish a separate residence. After breakfast, I checked out of the hotel and took a cab to my sister's apartment. Rachel had already left for work, but had given me a key and cleared space in her guest room. I dropped off my overnight bag and headed to my house while Eric would be at work. Entering our home felt surreal, like visiting a museum dedicated to a life I no longer recognized. Photos of our happier days adorned the walls. Evidence of our shared history filled every room. I moved methodically through the house, collecting essential items, more clothes, important documents, family heirlooms, and personal mementos. In our bedroom, I found Eric's side of the closet in disarray, suggesting he had packed hastily that morning. The bed was unmade, and on his nightstand lay his wedding ring. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. He had already moved on, at least in his mind. As I was packing some photos from my dresser, my phone rang. It was Eric. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. "Where are you?" he demanded without preamble. "At the house, gathering some things," I replied calmly. "Stay there. We need to talk." "I'm coming home." "That's not necessary," I said. "I'm almost finished here. Anything else can wait until we meet with our lawyers." "Damn it, Samantha," he exploded. "You've destroyed everything with your little stunt last night. Amanda won't speak to me. Brenda has filed a complaint with HR. Even Stephanie is threatening to tell her husband everything. How unfortunate that your actions have consequences," I observed dryly. His tone changed, becoming wheedling. "Babe, please. Let's talk about this rationally. What do you want? The house? A larger settlement? Name your price." "This isn't a negotiation, Eric. It's a divorce. I don't want anything from you except my freedom." "You don't mean that," he insisted. 10 years together counts for something. "It counted for nothing when you were sleeping with multiple women," I reminded him. "I'll be gone before you get home. Don't try to contact me except through Sandra." I hung up and finished packing quickly, wanting to be gone before Eric could arrive. As I carried the last bag to my waiting taxi, our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Collins, called out from her porch. "Everything all right, dear?" "Eric left in quite a hurry this morning." I smiled politely. "Just some changes happening, Mrs. Collins. Eric and I are separating." Her eyes widened. "Oh my. I'm so sorry to hear that. You two always seemed so happy." "Appearances can be deceiving," I said simply. At Rachel's apartment, I began the practical process of dismantling my married life. I opened a new bank account under my maiden name. I contacted our utility companies, credit card providers, and insurance agents to separate our accounts. I made appointments with a realtor to discuss selling the house and with a therapist to help process my emotions. The first week after our separation passed in a blur of practical arrangements and legal consultations. Eric attempted to contact me several times, alternating between apologies and accusations. I maintained my boundary of communicating only through our lawyers. Amanda reached out once more, asking to meet. After careful consideration, I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe. Her pregnancy now unmistakable at nearly 6 months. "Thank you for seeing me," she began awkwardly. I wanted to apologize again. I truly had no idea you and Eric were still together, much less celebrating an anniversary. "I believe you," I assured her. "Eric is a skillful liar. We were both deceived." She twisted her napkin nervously. "He's been calling constantly, sending flowers, claiming the other women meant nothing. That I'm the only one he truly cares about." I couldn't help but laugh. "Let me guess. He's also saying I was controlling and unaffectionate. That our marriage was already over in all but name." She nodded, looking miserable. "How did you know?" "Because that's his pattern. He creates narratives that absolve him of responsibility." I studied her face, seeing both vulnerability and strength. "What will you do about the baby?" Her hand moved protectively to her belly. "I'm keeping my child, regardless of what happens with Eric. I've always wanted to be a mother, even if the circumstances aren't what I imagined." "For what it's worth," I said carefully, "I think you're making the right choice in not trusting him again. People who betray multiple partners rarely change." She nodded thoughtfully. "I've realized that. Actually, I've moved back to Milwaukee to be near my family. They'll help with the baby." As we parted, Amanda hugged me awkwardly. "I'm sorry your marriage ended this way," she said sincerely. "I'm not," I replied, surprising myself with the truth of it. It needed to end. The only question was how much more time I would waste before accepting that fact. 3 weeks after our separation, Eric's behavior grew increasingly erratic. He showed up at Rachel's apartment one night, clearly drunk, demanding to speak with me. When Rachel refused to let him in, he created such a scene that neighbors called the police. The incident resulted in a restraining order, which Eric violated twice more before finally accepting that our marriage was irretrievably broken. By then, Sandra had gathered enough evidence of his infidelity and harassment to negotiate a settlement heavily in my favor. Throughout this challenging period, I discovered unexpected sources of strength. Colleagues I hadn't been close with offered support and solidarity. Old friends I had neglected during my marriage reconnected with enthusiasm. Even my parents, initially devastated by the news of our divorce, rallied around me with unwavering support. 6 months after that fateful anniversary dinner, our divorce was finalized. Eric received a smaller portion of our assets than initially proposed, largely due to his continued problematic behavior during proceedings. The house was sold, with profits divided according to our settlement. I purchased a smaller but charming condo in a vibrant neighborhood I had always loved. Amanda gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Through our occasional text exchanges, I learned that Eric had indeed paid child support but remained an inconsistent presence in his son's life. She had started dating a kind pediatrician who adored both her and the baby. As for me, the journey of rebuilding was both challenging and unexpectedly rewarding. I rediscovered passions I had set aside during my marriage. I took a photography class, joined a hiking group, and even tried salsa dancing. I reconnected with my authentic self, the woman who existed before becoming Eric's wife. My career flourished as I channeled my energy into professional growth rather than maintaining a failing marriage. I received a significant promotion 9 months after the divorce, becoming the youngest female executive in my company's history. Dating again seemed daunting at first. The thought of trusting another person with my heart felt impossible after such profound betrayal. But gradually, I opened myself to new connections, approaching relationships with wiser eyes and stronger boundaries. Through therapy, I recognized patterns in my marriage that I had overlooked. The subtle ways Eric had undermined my confidence, isolated me from friends, and conditioned me to accept less than I deserved. These insights didn't excuse his betrayal, but helped me understand how I had remained blind to it for so long. 1 year after our divorce, I received a letter from Eric. He was in therapy, he claimed, working on his issues with commitment and honesty. He expressed regret for his actions and hoped someday I might forgive him. I read the letter once, acknowledged the small measure of peace it brought, and then filed it away without responding. Some chapters are better left closed. The woman who had once defined herself as Eric Wilson's wife had transformed into someone stronger, wiser, and infinitely more self-aware. The pain of betrayal had forged a new version of me, one who would never again surrender her worth to someone who couldn't recognize it. 2 years have passed since that dramatic anniversary dinner at La Maison. Sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago, other times like just yesterday. The restaurant has since become a different kind of milestone marker for me. I dine there alone on each anniversary of my divorce, celebrating my freedom rather than mourning what was lost. Last month, I returned to La Maison for my second independence anniversary. Philippe, still the maitre d', greeted me warmly. "Madame Wilson, your usual table is ready. It's Ms. Carter now." I reminded him gently, having reclaimed my maiden name along with my identity. "And thank you, Philippe. Just won again this year." He led me to the same central table where my marriage had effectively ended. "Will you be having the chocolate soufflé for dessert?" he asked with a knowing smile. "Absolutely," I confirmed. "It's tradition." As I enjoyed my meal, I reflected on the profound lessons these past 2 years had taught me. The most important being that silence speaks volumes. Throughout my marriage, I had remained silent about my growing suspicions, silent about my diminishing happiness, silent about the subtle inequities that had developed between Eric and me. That silence had allowed betrayal to flourish in the dark. When I finally broke my silence at our anniversary dinner, the truth cascaded out, washing away the foundations of lies our marriage had been built upon. In the aftermath, I vowed never again to remain silent about my own needs and boundaries, in relationships or in life. The healing journey wasn't linear. There were days of anger so intense I could barely function. Nights of questioning every decision I had ever made. Moments of loneliness that made me briefly wonder if I should have tried harder to save my marriage, despite the betrayal. But those moments grew fewer and further between as I rebuilt my life on more authentic foundations. Therapy helped enormously, providing tools to process my grief and anger constructively. So did the unwavering support of friends and family who reminded me of my worth when I temporarily forgot. Eric and I have had no contact since the divorce was finalized, which has been essential for my healing. I've heard through mutual connections that he and Amanda briefly reconciled after their son's birth, but separated again within months. He's now reportedly dating a younger colleague at his firm, seemingly unchanged by the wreckage of relationships left in his wake. Amanda and I maintain an occasional, friendly text exchange. Her son, now a toddler, bears an unmistakable resemblance to Eric, but she tells me he has her gentle temperament. She married her pediatrician boyfriend 6 months ago, and he has legally adopted the child. They seem genuinely happy, proof that sometimes beauty can grow from the ashes of painful experiences. As for me, I've discovered a capacity for joy and self-love I never knew existed when defined by my marriage. My promotion has led to exciting opportunities, including an upcoming assignment in London that I would never have considered while married to Eric. I've dated casually but remain unrushed about finding a new relationship. When the right person comes along, I'll be ready with clearer eyes and stronger boundaries. Until then, I'm thoroughly enjoying my own company and the freedom to make decisions based solely on my own desires. The greatest lesson I've learned is that dignity cannot be taken from you. It can only be surrendered. Eric's betrayal could have destroyed me if I had allowed myself to become diminished by it. Instead, I chose to reclaim my power through calm confrontation rather than hysterical accusations, through deliberate action rather than passive suffering. That night at La Maison, when the dessert was served and truths revealed, I had worried that public exposure would feel vindictive or petty. Instead, it was profoundly liberating. By refusing to protect Eric from the consequences of his choices, I freed myself from the burden of his deception. So here's my advice to anyone facing betrayal. Silence protects the betrayer, never the betrayed. Your dignity lies not in pretending the betrayal never happened, but in how you respond to it. Choose responses that honor your worth rather than diminish it further. As Philippe brought my chocolate soufflé, he presented it with an unexpected flourish, a single candle in the center. For new beginnings, he explained with a kind smile. I blew out the candle, making a silent wish not for love or relationship, but for continued growth and self-discovery. Whatever the future holds, I face it now as a woman who knows her worth and refuses to accept anything less than the respect she deserves. The betrayal that once threatened to define me has instead refined me. Eric's cruelty ultimately yielded an unexpected gift, the strongest, most authentic version of myself. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal? What helped you heal and move forward? Share your experience in the comments below. And if my story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more honest conversations about life's unexpected challenges. Remember to share this video with someone who might need to hear that they too can transform pain into power. Thank you for listening to my journey. And may you find the courage to break your own silences when necessary.